How do we fix our economy? We return dignity to money. Our own mistrust of this Federal Reserve paper is the prime factor in the decreased volume of money transfers. The reckless activity of the banking industry and cabinet secretaries for both Bush and Obama obviously throttled the markets, but the real blow is not the actual economic activity of Lehman Brothers or any other bank, but rather the indirect influence on users of the currency. You see, a Ponzi scheme works perfectly fine, so long as the victims remain blissfully ignorant, or at least ignorantly complicit in the money manipulation scheme. As long as the confidence the public holds for Federal Reserve dollars is stronger than doubt of future value and exchangeability, then the currency will remain relevant. So in light of all the financial degradation and banking scandals of the past 5 years, what is keeping the value of the dollar alive? Put simply, it is power to remain the sole issuer of acceptable currency that was given to the Federal Reserve Corporation in 1913 by Congress, through powers that the bankers outlined in the Federal Reserve Act. Yes, the bankers themselves drafted this legislation in secret on Jekyll Island on November 22, 1910. They even used pseudonyms to avoid traceability. At first, Federal Reserve currency was backed by gold and silver. The government and banking class inevitably grew tired of this system, as finding new metals became increasingly less frequent and more difficult to extract. In 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and through the aftershock, the U.S. dollar adapted into the world's reserve currency. The term petrodollar was coined in 1973, after Henry Kissinger made an arrangement with the Saudi Arabian government that would establish the petrodollar. The agreement was that if the Saudis refused to accept payment for oil in any currency other than U.S. dollars and invest their surplus oil into U.S. debt securities, then the U.S. would provide military protection for their oil wells, and inevitably their entire nation, from Israel, and also agreed to give them a regular supply of weapons. Within 2 years, every OPEC member nation had made the petrodollar arrangement, thus tying the bond between consuming Middle East oil and U.S. military involvement in the region with the value of the U.S. dollar. In other words, the value of the U.S. dollar relies on your trust in its integrity, coupled with OPEC's ability to sell oil and the U.S. military's ability to keep the oil flowing fast. All of this value, however insanely derived, is only squandered domestically, once again because of government-created monopoly, and one with near to no oversight. The Federal Reserve Bank's first audit occurred 98 years after it began, and revealed they secretly gave international firms over $20 trillion in temporary loans. Many cite the fact that they were nearly all paid back, as if this made the act completely justifiable. As if throwing $20 trillion into a foreign market does not manipulate currency in the least. People with this philosophy have no respect for rules, nor any concept of basic macroeconomic principles. So this leaves us with a question, the one posed at the beginning of the video. How do we fix our economy? The answer is break the monopoly and expose and ridicule the Ponzi scheme. First, take away the government-enforced monopoly on currency distribution. I will acknowledge that an open currency market will be filled with junk currencies, the same way the stock market is filled with junk stocks and bonds. But maintaining the value of a currency really is not rocket science. It is much easier than maintaining the value of a business in a constantly manipulated economic environment. In an open currency market, Federal Reserve notes would be considered a dinosaur, and the value, and the feeder that props its value, would slowly and painfully vanish. When Bernie Madoff's victims learned of the nature of the scheme, they realized it was not in their best interest to continue the scheme. They realized the volatile nature of the scheme and the absence of any foundation holding it up. Wile E. Coyote running over a cliff is the perfect metaphor. He does not fall until he looks down. Currently, we know we are running on thin air, but we know not to look down. But curiosity will reveal the truth, and soon the coyote will fall. Alternative currencies are the branches emerging from the cliff face. The sooner we grab onto one and the more secure it is, the better chance we will have of recovering. It is in our best interest to open our eyes now, as we are running deep into a void. We need to gather and expose the manipulation the money monopoly men have on our economic and political systems. On November 22nd, we will surround the 12 regional banks that print and distribute money, as well as the Board of Governors building in D.C. We will have protesters exposing the Federal Reserve. We will have economists and activists discussing solutions, and we will see alternative currency in action. Please find the national event URL in the description below, as well as the regional rally you plan on attending. It is pertinent that we reach critical mass for this to feasibly take off. Consider taking a few minutes to invite friends on the event page. It may seem futile, but it is absolutely the most effective way to reach potential attendees. The time to take action has already passed. We need to end the Federal Reserve monopoly and expose the worthless paper for what it is. Then we will demonstrate the solutions to the world. It could not be any simpler. I will see you November 22nd.